Hey guys, here we go with the film study on Deontay Wilder, and I'm gonna try to make it quick. Obviously, if you're here, you already know how long it is, but I don't know, so don't tell me yet. Um, but first off, um, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, the link is in the description. Support responsibly, and I'll be having rewards coming soon. I'm gonna take a look at some of that stuff this weekend, see if we can get some personalized film studies or kind of figure out some of the options. If you guys have any ideas for Patreon stuff, that'd be really cool too. But support responsibly, and I really appreciate all the support. And next, I guess we're just gonna get into the film study. So this fight kind of blew my mind. I remember watching it the first time and kind of, you know, figuring Wilder is going to win. And I didn't watch a lot of it. I didn't pay super close attention to it. But Wilder actually really, really impressed me after I went through this whole fight, and I was just like, wait, what? What happened? Um, but let's go ahead and just start getting into it. It's some really cool stuff, and it blew my mind. Blew my mind. But first, I want to talk about active guard, right? It's very important. I know not everyone agrees, not everyone understands it, but as we're going to see right here, Wilder figures out real quick that he needs to have an active guard. He's standing there, he has his hands up in front of his opponent. His opponent feints him once. He doesn't respect the feint with that probing jab, right? Probing jab. Wilder just brings his guard up, right? And then the guy feints him and then shoots that jab right through there. And it looks like it almost wobbles him, right? First punch of the fight, and then Wilder's like, okay, man, got to step my game up. And immediately stops leaving his head right on the line and goes to an active guard. And as you can see, he dips to the left, dips to the right, and as he's coming up, he can hide his jab right there, and his opponent can't really counter it. He's not expecting it. But he immediately starts getting into an active guard. He's got a little bit of catch and counter style going there, which might be effective against Fury. We'll see. But again, just watch his guard. That's all I want you to focus on right now. Is it because it does so many things? When your opponent is worried about every movement, like every time you slip to the inside, right, you can hide a right hand in there. And Wilder has a killer right hand. So his opponents have to be worried about that. Now, all of a sudden, David Branch is not as active, or not David Branch, what the Gerald Washington isn't all of a sudden as active, because he has to be worried about the feinting. He has to be worried about these head movements because they disguise punches. It's very effective at controlling your opponent, right? And that's going to be the biggest task with Fury. As we watched in the fight, Klitschko was able to start catching him later in the fight, even though he didn't win the fight, and I didn't score it, but I didn't have him even close to winning either, even though he did make some good adjustments. But Fury was so hard to hit, and he had such an active guard, so many feinting. But once Klitschko was able to take that feinting away, right, by countering him, and we'll talk about that in a minute, Klitschko was able to land some punches. Now, this is really important right here. This is phenomenal, you guys. I cannot overstate how important this part of an active guard is actually controlling your opponent's lead hand, And we see Deontay Wilder say, what are you doing right there? What are you doing there, Mr. Washington? Washington's kind of probing at him, and he's all, hey, get that shit out of my face. Get that shit out of my face. And it takes away Gerald Washington's ability to really set his punches up, as you saw that jab earlier that he snuck through the guard, simply by controlling that lead hand and taking away its effectiveness. And then Wilder going back to his own probing, right, and his own controlling of his opponent. Now, the way that works, Fury is going to be going like this. He's going to be leaning on that front foot, giving all these different looks, doing all this stuff, right? But if Wilder is just putting his hand out there, right, and then Fury's going to go like this. Fury's going to be the one reacting to the probe, because this is much more dominant. This is much more dominant of an action than just using head movement, right, to disguise your punches and to move and to kind of do this kind of stuff. You have this, which resembles an actual punch. So if every time Fury leans in like this, right, and we know that that's how he fights off the front foot, right, he'll go like this, bah, right, boom, right, ooh, bah, and then pivot off the line. If every time he goes to do that, Wilder just puts this glove in his face, he's going to be able to control that space and stop Fury from feeling as comfortable doing that. Not only that, but he's going to have Fury reacting to the feints that he's going to have Fury reacting to those feints like they're punches. And we saw how Fury reacts to the punches. He ducks down like this and gets away from the jab, right? Boom, 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 right? To get away from the right hand. And as we saw, Klitschko was able to time that. But again, great use of the lead hand control. And on top of that, understanding how to set traps off of it, right? Boom, boom, and then shooting that jab in there. Now, it's also a little bit of a timing thing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But before we get into the meat of it, which is Wilder's defense, because his offense wasn't super great in this fight, and I think that it's going to be very similar to the Fury fight, that the first step he needs to do is take away Fury's offense, like Klitschko was trying to do, so that he can get Klitschko reacting to him, so that he can set his punches up more effectively, because I think Fury's going to be the one trying to be more active. So the first thing is going to be settling Klitschko down. But let's talk about his offense real quick. This is the first right hand that he really throws in the fight, and he kind of flashes out this lead hand, and then steps forward, and then throws this right hand that, kind of lands with the side of the glove on the head, right? Not super effective. He does stay on the line a little bit too long, as you see here. And Gerald Washington's able to kind of land some punches. Then he comes in. Now, this might actually be effective. So he comes in with that jab, right? Gets Gerald Washington to bring his glove up to catch the right hand. Boom. But instead, because the last time he saw that, right, Gerald Washington tried to slip to the inside, right? And that's what caused the punch to basically miss. He's reacting by changing it up and going to the body instead. Now, again, not super set up for his punches, right? His own offense. He hasn't figured out a way to set it up yet because Gerald Washington had control of the round, most of the round, with his feinting or with his stuff, and Wilder was kind of reacting most of the time. Now, what I want to focus on is, now this is going to be the meat of the film study. This is going to be the most important part. So we talked a little bit about the active guard. Excuse me. The active guard. Fury has a very, very active guard, and if Wilder is going to need to take advantage of that, or mitigate that, he needs to not only be feinting, using his lead hand, using his own angles to make Fury think about what he's doing and not think about what Fury's doing, but he also is going to need to time Fury, as we saw. Oh, and again, this is just another one of those flashing the right hand, not super effective. Again, easy to block. It's not very layered. But this next clip, is the one that I want to focus on. As we saw also with Tyson Fury, not only does he have the active guard, which you can slow down very easily with the probing, because this is so much more dominant of an action, right? Boom, giving him different looks. But Fury would also step on those punches or on those timings, right, in his active guard, and he would go here, right? And then he would lean in and shoot a shot, right? Boom. Or shoot a hook and move off the line, right? Or he would lean in and shoot a right hand. He would shoot in, but he would do it all leaning off the front foot. And so in addition to his active guard, doing all his stuff, what you got? Oh, doing all that funny stuff, whatever he's doing, his offense was very predictable because he fought off of the front foot. Now, the reason that's important is because that's exactly how Gerald Washington fights Deontay Wilder in this fight. Now Gerald Washington is a little more predictable because he actually steps with every punch. As we see here, he steps with this right hand, right? He takes a hard step. Now David Branch, or why do I keep calling him David Branch? Gerald Washington, again, stepping with the jab here, and Wilder reacting well, right? Taking a step back. Gerald Washington feinting him right there. Feinting him right there again. But notice that all of those feints come off of a step. Again, this one too. He steps forward. Sorry for the poor angle. But again, stepping with all his shots. And now look at when he steps. Again, he's stepping, and Wilder times him with the jab, right? Moves his head off the line. It doesn't wind up working out for Wilder this time, but he's able to get a control of him and give him a great spin. Let's just kind of watch that in real time. Crazy reflexes, but again, he's timing Gerald Washington as he steps with that jab, and starts, and that's when it starts, is in the third round. Again, another Gerald Washington stepping with his right hand, right? Boom. And so much of Gerald Washington's offense is predicated off of that. Now, this was really interesting because it took me a minute to figure out why Wilder was able to land this shot. But if you watch Gerald Washington, he goes to step with that shot, and Wilder times him perfectly with that jab, showing that he's paying attention to the timing and the rhythm of Gerald Washington. Now, it's going to be a little more difficult with Fury because Fury doesn't step. He only leans on that front foot, but you can catch him stepping on that front foot and about to do it, even though he won't be committing to it like Gerald Washington does, as difficult. Again, Gerald Washington coming forward, easy to time, and then easy to time on the next shot because he's stepping with every punch. But as the fight wears on, Deontay Wilder is able to time Gerald Washington with more and more punches, and that makes Gerald Washington more and more hesitant to throw his offense because all of it comes off of stepping on that shot. It stops him from feeling comfortable initiating offense with Wilder, and by the third round, which is when I started to actually score the rounds for Wilder. I think I gave Wilder the fourth round, but the first, second, and third rounds were all so close that they could really go either way. But I think that the fourth round, Wilder really started to get his game plan going. Now, we're only halfway through this video, but again, looking at Wilder's defense, right? Sometimes he gets into that high guard, and, he kind of stays stationary with his head. Again, right there, not great. But again, look at him timing Gerald Washington here, timing him stepping with that shot, timing him, and he's controlling him. And look at how he's starting to set up different counters for Gerald Washington. Oh, maybe I'll get you with the hook this time, And all of this serves to slow, boom, again, a great jab right there, serves to slow Gerald Washington down so that Gerald Washington doesn't feel as comfortable setting up his offense and getting him into a position where Wilder can start setting up his own shots. Now, this defense, I'm not a super big fan of Wilder, how he kind of shells up. And in the next clip, you'll see that David Branch feints him, gets him into that guard, and then shoots a great right hand to the body. He kind of opens himself up for it. So if you're a Wilder fan, you'll be hoping that he doesn't use that defense, that he continues to stick with the countering one. But in this instance right here, this is beautiful. Feints him, right? Watch Gerald Washington feint him with the foot, right? Wilder gets into the high guard, then he's going to feint him again, and Wilder counters him to the body and moves off the line. And then, beautiful, Gerald Washington starts to step, and as he's stepping in, Wilder's timing him like that, boom, and trying to go over the top. Now, this is the kind of counter that's going to be effective against Wilder, or against Fury, because once Fury's on that foot, he's not punching, right? He punches when he leans on it, right? Boom, right? And he leans. But if you can catch him before he plants his foot, that might be very effective. But again, very easy to time Gerald Washington, right? Even though that hook kind of lands, and it could have landed, but it's very easy for him to time his defense, time his stuff, and he sees all these punches coming, and Gerald Washington has a very difficult time landing punches of his own. And as you see in this next clip, continuing to time and take advantage of Gerald Washington's punches, even though he gets caught right here. That's not the point, right? That's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on the strategy, right? And then see how the strategy applies to him fighting Tyson Fury. Now, this is a brilliant clip as well. Again, Gerald Washington, looking to set his punches up, begins feinting Wilder. Hey, are you going to counter? I notice you've been countering me, bro. Are you going to counter me right now? No? And then Wilder does counter him, right? Showing that he's not very predictable. And then, boom, countering him again right on those steps. Just beautiful work, timing him on that step and on that front foot. And that's exactly what he needs to do to fight against Fury. And then again, timing him with this left hook. It doesn't land, right? But if you know your opponent's throwing these left hooks at you, whether they land or not doesn't matter because, again, another left hook when he steps forward to throw that next shot, right? You're going to have to be wary of them, right? It doesn't matter if it lands or not. You know that it's coming, so you have to either come up with a different game plan or figure something else out or just stop doing it. Now, in the fifth round, The fourth round was when Wilder started actually using a little bit more of his offense. David Branch wasn't controlling him super well and wasn't leading and was allowing Wilder to go first in most of the exchanges. And that was an easy Wilder round. But I wanted to get right into the fifth round because this is the end of the fight. I'm going to talk about what happened. But as you see, he's timing David Branch or Gerald Washington. Who the hell is David Branch? God damn it. But he's timing Gerald Washington on that step forward, and he's able to keep Gerald Washington his hands by himself and break all of his active guard. Notice Gerald Washington doesn't even want to step on that front foot anymore because Wilder is timing him on it, right? Stepping forward, catching him with the hook right there. And if you notice in these last few clips, boom, there's the right hand. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. If you notice in these last few clips, every time that Wilder shoots a jab at Gerald Washington stays on the line because Wilder has only been countering with the jab, and he's only been shooting the jab for the last 2 rounds. He hasn't really thrown any right hands. And again, throwing that hook, Gerald Washington stays on the line with him, and then boom, you see it right here. Gerald Washington is going to lean forward, he's going to rock forward, and as he's stepping on that front foot, that jab comes out, he parries it, he gets out of the way of it, but he has no idea that the right hand is coming after it, and he's able to time him with that shot, all off of that stepping forward. So in hindsight, what looked like a not great performance from Wilder originally. And again, I didn't watch it very thoroughly, but watching it now, it appears that Wilder broke Gerald Washington's tools down, right? Gerald Washington, it looked like, was dominating him kind of in the first 2 rounds, right? He had complete control of the fight, but Wilder kind of did that Mayweather thing where you give up the first 2 rounds, you read your opponent, then you slowly start taking away all their tools. And he was able to break down Gerald Washington's ability to step forward and punch and have that kind of flashy amateur style, right? And that's what it is. It's from the amateurs. It's kind of an in and out style. You want to just do it real quick. And after he was able to take Gerald Washington's lead hand away in his offense, he had Gerald Washington in a position where he was reacting to him, and he was able to set those timings up and counter and knock him out, basically off of his own timing, his own stepping on that front foot. And the reason that this is so important is because that's exactly how Tyson Fury fights. He doesn't step with his punches. Sometimes he does, right? But he's leaning on that front foot, and it's a very similar timing. And if Wilder has already shown that this is a skill that he has to time, and he understands how to do it, it might mean that he might have a great night against Tyson Fury, which is something I did not expect at all. I did not expect to be this excited about Wilder's chances of beating him. Now, the next clip I'm going to show, and this is the the icing on the cake. We saw in the first round feinting, changing guards, right, giving him the probes, right. Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then touching gloves with Gerald Washington, right? And he touched the jab, and then he shot it in there real quick and said, "Hey, you better stop that." And he was able to break down Gerald Washington's offenses in order to counter him very effectively for the knockout. But at the beginning of each round, Deontay Wilder went back to probing and controlling his opponent at the beginning of every single round. And I'm going to show them. As you see, he comes in and he stops God damn it. He stops Gerald Washington from controlling the space and coming forward when he wants, and is able to break the layers of Gerald Washington's offense down so that he can only get his offense off by stepping forward. And it makes it very predictable for Deontay Wilder. As you see, again, and he's able to set up his own shots. Now there's the third round, again, coming out, touching gloves, and then boom. Now it looks like Wilder gets hit here, but he doesn't, right? He slips that shot. But again, touching gloves. And then when he goes to touch gloves this time, he brings the glove back and beats Gerald Washington to the punch and is able to maintain control of the space between him and his opponent. And now the fifth round, again, started out very similarly, catching the jab, feinting, controlling with the lead hand. and countering him with that hook. I don't know why it ended so abruptly, but boom. And then Gerald Washington comes forward, stepping on that front foot, and goes to step with that shot. And then Wilder's able to catch him with the counter. Boop. But anyway, these are all just such fascinating ways that these two fighters are going to come together that I didn't see that coming at all. And it's really fascinating. It's really exciting. Doesn't this person's shirt right here look kind of like it's Gerald Washington's spit kind of flying, like he just got cracked. Anyway, so yeah, if Deontay Wilder can take away Tyson Fury's ability to control him, right? And Tyson Fury controls his opponents by constantly feinting and getting them to respond to him, right? Now, if we do notice early in the clips, Wilder does spend a lot of time being the one that's controlled. David Branch Gerald Washington's the one's feinting him, right? Landing that shot right there. But Gerald Washington is the one that's feinting him and getting him to react. And as we see right here, Wilder spends a lot of time on the back foot in the beginning of the fight before he starts picking up on that timing. Now, Gerald Washington's kind of like a poor man Tyson Fury in that regard, right? He's not as fast, he's not as active, he's not as big, he might be more, I don't want to say athletic, but more dangerous with his punching power for sure. More sharp than Tyson Fury. That's a bonus for Wilder. That he's already fought someone that's, similar, right? Not as active, right? I think Gerald Washington actually using that lead hand control, even though he lost it very quickly, that's a more difficult technique. Let me see, what was I going to say? But it's a huge plus for Wilder that he's already dealt with this, that he's fought someone that has a similar style, that similarities are so important. And for those that were talking about it, and I'll still reply to your comments, but the reason we can't use Tyson Fury versus Pianetta's like 3 feet tall. Also, he's a southpaw. So even though Tyson Fury didn't look like the old Tyson Fury, the strategy is what we want to pull from the fight, right? Not the results. The results don't matter, right? Even if we watched a fight where Tyson Fury got knocked out by a right-handed fighter that resembled Deontay Wilder, it would be a better fight to watch to figure out his strategy than a fight that he won where he fought a southpaw. It doesn't mesh up very well because we just want to see what his strategies are fighting right-handed fighters. What are his tactics? What does his defense look like? What does his offense look like? And so far, Wilder's defense, while he does kind of shell up sometimes, and the speed of Fury might make it mean that it's going to take a few rounds for him to pick up on this timing or be able to capitalize on it. So he might wind up being down like 3-4 rounds early in the fight. But he does have the opportunity to pick up on the timing of Fury and start setting up some shots. And also watch Fury when he ducks down to land that right hand. Wilder is just so much more live in this fight than I was originally thinking. So this is going to be a fascinating fight. I'm not sure if I'm going to do my last video tomorrow or not. I might take a day off. Video making and then do it on Friday. I think I have some more film study to do. I got to watch these fights like a little more closely. Go back and watch the Tyson Fury one before I make a prediction. But I didn't think this was a 50-50 fight at all. I thought that it was like probably 70-30 in favor of Fury. And not in a fun fight, not in a fight that you want to watch. But just the kind of like stopping Wilder from being as active as he wants to be, right? By feinting, right? If you feint your opponent for 2 minutes of a 3-minute round and he's not throwing punches at you, that means effectively your opponent only had 1 minute to fight you. How effective can they be? They only have 1 minute to get information from you, 1 minute to read your defenses, 1 minute to read your offenses, And it creates an interesting dynamic when you have that much control over your opponent. But it's fascinating that I thought that was going to be the case, similarly to the Klitschko case. But it looks like Deontay Wilder might know how to mitigate that from Tyson Fury. And if that's the case, Tyson Fury is in a lot of trouble. If that's the case, he's in a lot of trouble. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit me up on that Patreon. Shoot me a couple bucks. Support responsibly. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter and all that jazz. And thanks, guys. Appreciate it.